Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Zanele Maduna and I'm a chartered accountant, and my channel is all about empowering aspiring leaders, aspiring chartered accountants. So today we are recording the Journey to CA series, and once again I have an amazing guest. Obviously my guest is a chartered accountant, but we just want to dig deep into, how was his journey to becoming a chartered accountant. So my guest today is Kevin. Welcome, Kevin. Welcome. I am so grateful that you actually accepted this invitation. So for everyone who has never seen Kevin on my channel, he was actually one of the speakers at our Youth Day event, and he spoke about all things future-proofing the career. He spoke about CA of the future. So if you want to see more on that, I will link down the video below. But then today, we're just going to dig deep into how did he actually become a chartered accountant. So Kevin, in your video of the top 35 under 35 that people can also find on YouTube, so I'll also link that down below, you mentioned something. You said that you are from the rural areas of Northern Cape and that your parents were actually teachers. So can you please take us along on that? Because you just mentioned, I'm from Northern Cape, it was the rural areas, my parents were teachers, and then I was inspired to actually become a chartered accountant. But just take us back. Take us back to when did you actually say, actually, this profession is for me? And how did you even get to the university that you got to?
Thanks for having me, Zanele. It's an honor to be here on your channel. And to take it back to where it started. So from a very young age, as I mentioned, because my parents were teachers, they were very much disciplinarians. So as much as possible, everything, including school holidays, was about continuous learning. And in that sense, when I was about 11 years old, I started articulating to my father that I want to be a future business leader and a successful businessman. So at the time, he exposed me to accounting. He was doing some further studies, and he introduced me to a university accounting textbook, which sort of demonstrates at an entry level what accounting, is to people who are pursuing business studies at university. And I got to learn about tea accounting at that age. And he kept emphasizing that, look, if you learn about accounting, you will definitely become a future business leader, because accounting is the backbone of businesses. It's one of the key enablers of any business. So go further into the accounting space and you will become a successful business person. And then as I progressed through my school career, I developed a natural aptitude for accounting and business studies in the school curriculum. And then towards the end of my high school journey, when I needed to decide what to study further at university in order to pursue this goal of being a business leader, accounting emerged as the sensible or the best option at that time in order for me to fulfill that dream. So the chartered accountancy route was what I chose to study. And I must say, I do not regret it. It has definitely put me on the path that I dreamed of. So I'm contributing to commerce in my particular skill set. But I definitely feel, the CA stream or the chartered accountancy qualification has given me the necessary skills to contribute in commerce in the way that I am today.
Oh my word, that is brilliant. Because at 11 years old, you knew that you actually wanted to be a future business leader. So let's actually talk about that. Like, I think when you were 11 years old, what a future business leader looked like and what it is now, that might have changed. So do you mind just taking us in, what do you think a future business leader is, and whether you think you are one now, or what does it really take to be a future business leader? Because we understand that maybe the CA qualification is one of the things that you can do so that you can become a future business leader. But just take us into what you thought it was and what you think it is now.
So At the time, as a young child, I definitely thought, that look, a future business leader is that person you see on the cover of a Forbes magazine. They're extremely rich. They're the person that everybody aspires to be like. They're extremely inspirational. They speak well. They dress well. And they run large industries and employ lots of people. And that's what I thought a future business leader was at that point in time, and that's what I aspired to be. And what do I think that is today? I think it's that is maybe one aspect of it, but it's much broader. I think a business leader, whether they're a future business leader or current business leader, is definitely a person who is able to galvanize other people around a common cause and make all of them feel like they own that common cause. They're all accountable for it. They're all contributing to the progress of society by working on that common cause. And ultimately, if any leader, whether it's in business or not, can manage to do that, I believe that is a more sustainable definition of what it means to be a future business leader. Because whether you're there or not, those people will be inspired, the people that you lead. They'll be inspired to wake up every day and do the work that's needed. So am I that future business leader? I think I'm still, on my way there. I don't think I've arrived. I still have a lot more aspirations in terms of my leadership potential. But in terms of what I've defined, I think that is essentially who I'd like to be. I'd like to inspire other people to add value in a way that they feel, personally accountable, and in a way that they feel proud for whatever comes out of their efforts.
Awesome. Awesome. I really like that. I like the fact that you spoke about a common cause and you spoke a lot about that influence that is actually inspiring other people. On my channel, I speak a lot about starting with why, which is based on the book that I love by Simon Sinek, Start with Why. So as a business leader, in as much as obviously we all in the journey and, there isn't anyone who can say I've arrived. Like I even saw with Maya Angelou, like just before she passed away, she was still saying, whenever people would ask her, have you reached wherever, the destination you wanted to reach? She kept on saying, I am en route, right? So with you, when it comes to this whole thing about having a common cause and actually getting other people to follow that vision, is there a specific why? Is there a reason why you get out of bed every day, or even why you chose the route that you are on now?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you reference Simon Sinek. So I've definitely watched his talks. I've read up on some of his ideologies, and I do agree mostly with what he has to say. And if I reference something that I think he's brought up time and time again in terms of the why, which is the reason why a lot of us wake up every day, the reason why certain organizations, work the way they do. I think it's tied to what's your purpose as an individual. So to discover that why, you really need to be certain of what do you want to be known for at the end of the day? What do you want your legacy to be? And when you get to understand what that is and articulate it, the why comes naturally from there. So I think likewise, when it comes to leadership, I think people are galvanized by leaders who understand the purpose behind each and every individual. And in understanding that purpose, they then put them in the best positions to be aligned with their purpose. Putting people in the places where they'll be the best version of themselves. So I think the way then I would articulate how one would do that in the context of leadership is simply get to know the people that you're working with. Get to understand what makes them tick, and in that sense, respect who they are and who they aspire to be, and they will naturally be motivated behind any task that you put them behind.
I like that. I like that. And in just speaking about the why, I know you are so passionate about digital innovation. And you even hosting your webinars on in-app talks, and you're always on VOW FM talking about all things technology. It can be in regards to like COVID, it can be in regards to anything, right? So with regards to that, and as well as I know we're shifting a bit into what you're doing, but just on the why. And the reason I'm actually digging into this is because I found that when it comes to our audience, because we have aspiring chartered accountants, but they are also diverse. So whenever I'm doing this series, it's like there's always someone who sees themselves in one of my guests. So I know for sure that there are people in us having this conversation who will definitely come afterwards and be like, oh my gosh, this conversation resonated with me because maybe this is the South Africa that I envision, or maybe I like technology, I like innovation, but I didn't know how that would work out with my studies as a CA, right? So let's talk about with that why. Like, how do you connect, your purpose per se with, what you are passionate about, which is digital innovation? Is there, because I know there are like exciting projects. I think they have to do with like decentralizing, like the solar energy or something. Like, can you take us in, your CA qualification, your passion in digital innovation, and how you're using that for social impact, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my why, I think, starts from the story I told you about how did I even get into, the CA stream. From a very young age, at the age of 11, I knew I aspired to be a future business leader. So that's very much my why. And in the process of being a business leader, I have come to understand that I like building businesses, or I like creating value in the business context, in commerce. I like adding value to customers, making sure that their challenges are solved, and making sure that they can go about their lives more efficiently. So in that sort of entrepreneurial mindset, I have found myself sort of selecting um, a career path that definitely has to do with creating sustainable value by, innovating and bringing about new things. And the link to digital innovation. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, um, which is very much characterized by the rapid sort of change that's brought about with the aid of technology. So because I aspire to create value, I definitely want to look for the most impactful place to do that. And right now, in terms of what the world is going through, technology is definitely one of those most impactful places to drive that change that will, ultimately change the world. And hence I've ended up in digital innovation. And as a chartered accountant, I think the skills and knowledge that I've obtained from my chartered accountancy academic background, but also training, and also sort of measurement of professional competence, have given me what I refer to as the necessary business acumen to identify what are those areas in business or in commerce or in industries that need innovation, that need new things to be built in order to improve the lives of people at the end of the day. So that definitely comes from, I would say, my CA background. And naturally also from the CA background, I think the consistent requirement to keep learning, to keep reskilling, to keep up to date has given me the aptitude to learn about technology, even though it's not necessarily learned, in the CA stream extensively. So I've been able to pick up a keen interest in technology, learn about its applications, learn about where it can add value. And because my why, once again, is to be a future business leader, I feel a leader is only useful if they're going to improve the lives of people around them. So hence, in the context in which I currently work, I've chosen to sort of be part of initiatives which are going to improve society, that are going to drive social good. So I've worked on a project which looks at helping businesses to expand into and across Africa. And what does that mean? Growth of industries, creation of jobs. Right now, I'm working on decentralized energy, which is looking at optimizing alternative, sources of electricity supply, and including renewable energy. And what does that mean? Improving the environmental impact of the way industries generate power. So for me, that's how it all comes together.
Yes.
But once again, it's all tied to the why.
Yes. That's brilliant. That is incredible. When it comes to all of this, I must say, because I've always looked up to you, because we're both at VEDS and you were even an academic trainee and you got to teach us. So in looking at your journey and even in looking at what you're doing with, the radio stations, you're always on media, now SAICA 35, under 35, you've always done so many great things. And what I found, especially with my audience, is that they look to people like you, they even look up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, these people look like, it looks like everything is perfect. And that's why they're chartered accountants. But then I just want to take this time and actually, ask you about whether you've had any low points in your journey to becoming a chartered accountant, because that's where our aspiring chartered accountants actually get to, relate with us, because most of them, they end up maybe failing a subject. They end up, they're always questioning, am I right for this profession? Because it's quite challenging. And whenever they hit those low points, they actually, they'll be looking at ASA and they're like, oh my gosh, Kevin looks so perfect. There's no way I'm like Kevin. Maybe I should just drop out. So are there any low points that you're willing to share with us on your journey to becoming a CA?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that's definitely true about the CA journey is it's not easy. So I don't mean to say that as a way to sort of brag just because, let's say you and I are chartered accountants, but the truth is it's challenging. And it's not to say that those who don't make it are not capable. If very capable people have tried the CA route and have not made it. And it's not because, they're not smart enough, but there are just so many ingredients that need to come together in order for you to navigate the CA stream. So naturally for me as well, just like many other people who've gone through the CA stream, I faced challenges when it came to CTA. CTA is a very tough year. Not only do you need to be very mentally stable and resilient, but also you need to rapidly come to terms with how different that year is. It's a year that is very challenging in terms of preparing you for the next level of growth, which is going through a chartered accountancy training. But a lot of what you need in order to progress into that next level is all compacted into that 1 year. So when I went through CTA on my first attempt, there were various challenges that came up in my life, in my personal life. Unfortunately, I did not manage them as efficiently as possible. And I took for granted that I had gone through my undergraduate time all, in record time. So for the first time, I hit challenges that I was not necessarily prepared for. And I allowed that, to hamper my performance. And the way CTA is, it's if you don't perform well in one test sitting or one exam, um, it likely flows over into the next, and before you know it, catching up is very difficult. So I end up in a situation of trying to catch up, especially in the second half of that first attempt, but it was a bit too late at that point in time. So I had to redo my CTA, but I came back with such a big drive, knowing that I have more potential and knowing that I just needed to work on, how do I balance my life accordingly to make sure that disruptions do not put me off track when I go through the CTA experience, which is very tough, happens very quickly, but it sort of needs you to be a little bit superhuman for just the whole year. So when I came back, I applied myself optimally. I took the lessons from the previous year, and I gave myself a goal, and I said I'm going to be one of the top academic achievers in this year, on my second attempt. And I'm even going to qualify to become an academic trainee or an academic article clerk. So I pushed so hard. Sometimes I'd get locked in libraries, studying during the December holidays, and sort of bang on the windows for security guards to notice and open the library for me. But it happened. So came the first test, I performed very well, and the next and the next, and it was a snowball effect from there. And I think it gets to a point where when you've done all the work and you've put in all the right efforts, it just starts happening naturally. So it just became a natural thing now to go to an exam and a test, and perform well. And that put me in good stead to sort of change that around, have a very different experience. And ultimately, it's led me to so many other things. I've done several other qualifications post my CTA. I've also passed all my board exams on first attempt. Even when I was an academic trainee, I believe I was able to connect with students in a way that I could come from two perspectives. The perspective of a person who's struggling, and also the perspective of somebody who's sort of done it well before. And that was an interesting mix that I think helped me to be more connected to students. And I enjoyed my time when I was sort of being a lecturer. And ultimately, I was very fulfilled because I felt it all happened for a reason, and it made me much better in that position. And it's made me much stronger since, in that my business acumen has been very strong because of that reaffirmation I had to do by going back and trying again. And I feel if I'd made it the first time, maybe I wouldn't have been, as well prepared for the journey that I'm on today.
Yeah, that is so true, and I like that because I never knew that you actually attempted CTA twice. So that's quite interesting because in seeing you, especially you as an academic trainee, I always thought you've always just been an A student. You've never even failed one test. So that's quite interesting to see, and I like how you just bounced back. And just listening to you, I was just thinking about the conversation that I had with my mentee during the week, where my mentee was speaking about the fact that now he's in his third year of articles, and ever since he attempted ITC for the second time, he feels like he can't dream as big anymore. He felt like ITC, like just him repeating ITC, it's like it's a confirmation that like he can never always get what he wants. So it's interesting that with you, in as much as you did repeat it, you're doing better and better and better, and you didn't actually let it define you. So, and you spoke about the fact that you had to be mentally stable and you had to keep on pushing. Is there one thing that you can actually advise the people who haven't gotten up from their failure? Like, is there one thing that you can advise them to do? Because when I was advising him, I was saying to him, because I repeated ITC as well, I was saying to him, I had to sit down and actually be like, okay, why did I repeat ITC? Maybe it's because I didn't study as much. And with my second attempt, I was able to prove to myself that if I study, I can get it. So that's what happened, because I was able to identify that this is the issue. Then I separated it. I didn't let it define me. But then is there any other thing maybe that you can say to people who still can't get up from failure?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think it's always important to remember that, and this might sound like a cliche, but it's applicable, in that, no matter what you're going through, it's not the end of the world. And I think the quickest way to remotivate yourself when you are feeling down and you feel like, you're not going to make it is to look around for examples. And there are examples of people who've gone through countless, amounts of failure, or times of failure, and they've made it. So I think generally start there by understanding, it's not the end of the world. Other people have failed before. Failure is part of life. Failure is actually meant to make you stronger. Without failure, I think life would be boring. I think we're meant to have failure as a way to remind us that we're here, we exist, and it's from those experiences that we actually grow. Without challenge, I don't think we would have an opportunity to grow. So look at whatever failure you're going through at any point in time as an experience of growth.
Yes.
And it's very important to have an attitude of optimism. With anything that's challenging and worthwhile, you need to have a healthy amount of optimism for you to be at your best at all times. So if the issue is that you don't know how to remain, let's say, motivated, maybe there are other aspects in your life, like a support structure that you can put in place, like a hobby. Find some kind of outlet to remind you that the task that you are busy with, which is challenging you, is a very big part of your life, but it's not all of your life. There is life beyond the things you want to achieve, the things you want to work on. And I think that in itself can be very refreshing and actually re-energize you enough to come back and try and try and try again. Because I think a lot of us, or a lot of people who've gone through a situation of not necessarily being able to navigate failure at a point in time, have found ourselves in that position, mostly because we forget that, there's a bigger sort of purpose to life, and this is just one aspect of it. It's just a phase. So that would be my advice.
Yes, that is brilliant. Like, I really, really like that, because it's really not the end of the world. And most of the times, what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. So I really, really like that. So just to wrap up with my last question, I just want to ask, because it seems like you've done so well for yourself in corporate, and you've done so well for yourself as an entrepreneur. And we're not going to say a lot about your entrepreneurial route, because we did say a lot in the video that we shot when we had our Youth Day event. And I'm sure if people can also Google you, they can find more on that. But then you've done so well in your entrepreneurial route. You've done so well in corporate, and you are always doing other things on the side, where you're hosting your webinars. Like, it seems like everything you touch, tends to be gold. So my last question is, how do you balance it all out? How were you able to actually excel in corporate, because you do hold a position that is quite high up at one of the big firms in South Africa, and you did so well in entrepreneurship, and you continue to even build your brand so well, because in this social media world, I know, like, most of the people who are aspiring chartered accountants, they even know who you are. So how were you able to excel in all of that, and how are you even able to do all of these so well presently, but then still be seen as like the CA of the future? And in answering that as well, I would really like if you can conclude and say, where to from here? Now that you've been excelling in corporate, you've been excelling in entrepreneurship, your brand is quite well, and you are seen as the CA of the future. What is out there? Because now you are even part of the top 35 under 35 finalist list. Like, what's more? Like, are you even dreaming of other things? What should we look out for when it comes to you and what you have in store?
Yeah, so I'd like to wish that everything I touched turned to gold. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But what I must say is that yes, there's a lot of things that I try, and it's in the spirit of what we've just spoken about. You have to have optimism. You have to keep trying new things. You have to face challenges. It's the only way you grow. And I feel I haven't reached my full potential yet, and that's why I keep trying things. I keep doing different things, and we're moving into a phase where yes, we're in a space where social media is very important for many things, but also personal branding in the context of your professional competence, I think is becoming more and more of a phenomenon right now. If you look at LinkedIn, for example, more and more people are starting to give us some insight into what happens, in their daily life, what happens in terms of the jobs that they're doing, the conferences they're speaking at, the webinars that they're hosting, the social initiatives that they're running, or even, the big corporate deals that they are successfully putting together or are working on, or even the thought leadership or knowledge that they want to share. Because the world, I think now, wants to sort of more tangibly see what you're capable of, as opposed to just looking at you on a piece of paper, just looking at your CV. So I realized that in the last couple of years, and I therefore decided to position myself on as many platforms as possible. So the reason why I do essentially what I do in corporate, but also I'm an entrepreneur, is I feel the world is moving so quickly. And ultimately, in order to acquire the skills I need to be future ready, to be a CA of the future, I felt I needed to find my own avenues as well to acquire certain skills that maybe I wouldn't necessarily be able to acquire in the corporate space. The corporate space, has its own sort of processes and procedures. You can't necessarily do everything. There is segregation of duties. So there's certain things you might not be able to learn when you want to learn them, because there's a key sort of focus area you're involved in. So I identified that, and hence I decided to go on my sort of own street learning, which is on the side, experiment with certain things, and get additional learnings. And that has actually enriched me even in my corporate sort of job, because I've picked up learnings that have made me more effective, especially because I've ventured into tech entrepreneurship, and the corporate space because I'm doing digital innovation. Of course, the learnings of tech entrepreneurship naturally fit into that world. Um, so it's not easy to do it all. I do have, sleepless nights. I do sleep late most of the time. That's the ugly truth. I am tired a lot. There are days when I do feel down, but because there's just so much work to do, and there's no time to rest, and the world is moving so fast, I've accepted to put myself, in that position of working hard on all these things, because I feel eventually it will lead to something. Um, and where to from here? So yeah, I feel very blessed in terms of everything that's happening in my life at this point. I didn't expect it to happen, even though, yes, I did dream of it at some point. I did dream to be one of the top 35s under 35s. I think that's something everybody in the chartered accountancy space, aspires to be one day. And when it came about this year, I was actually surprised. I didn't even think I was ready to be counted as one of those people. But ultimately, what I hope will come from it is my story will inspire others. In fact, people have been reaching out to me saying, I also want to be on the top 35. How do I do it? So I share the little that I can. Um, but I think what I would like to sort of see happening in my life after this is to use it once again as a platform to add value. So I hope to progress my career further. I hope to become more senior in terms of leadership, and provide more strategic direction to digital innovation and digital strategy. So hopefully, at the end of this particular process, or everything that's happening in the year 2020, even though it's been quite a crazy year with everything, COVID and so on, I hope that I'll be able to re-energize myself for the next couple of years, starting from next year, to get into that position so that I can add value in the skill set that I have built to organizations, to individuals, and to society at large.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Kevin, and all the best. We know for sure you will definitely do that. And what I have taken away from this interview is that you are always adding value, and you know, you are always breaking barriers, and you're always looking into doing things in a sustainable way. And yeah, I'm sure most of our audience has been deeply inspired, and I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you as well. If they want to reach out to you, how what is the best medium? Like, is it LinkedIn? How can they best reach out to ask any questions on your journey, or even the people who want to be part of the top 35 under 35?
Yeah, I think you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. So you can just search for my name, which is Kevin Ssemwogerere. Or you can also find me on social media. So on Twitter, my handle is at Kevin Sem. So yeah, I think through there, happy to chat, and happy to, you know, provide any sort of lessons from my journey that will hopefully help anybody out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. And if you got this far, thank you for watching our interview with Kevin on his journey to CA. I'm sure you have been inspired. And please remember to subscribe and like this video. I'll see you on my next video. Chapeau.